So it says the expression the cube root of 18 times 5 times the cube root of 6 is equivalent to 15 times the cube root of x, and they want us to figure out what the value of x is. So they're asking us to basically simplify this expression. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about cube roots real quick. So if I have a cube root, and let me say, I put a list here. So I wrote this down, and I encourage my students to do this on the top of their paper so that they have these in front of them to look at. These are what are known as perfect cubes. And the way I came up with this list of numbers here is I just took the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I went to 10. You could go further, but you probably don't need to. And then I did each of those numbers to the third power. So I did 1 to the third is 1, 2 to the third is 8, 3 to the third is 27, 4 to the third is 64, and so on. That's how I got these numbers. So why are these numbers important? Well, again, these numbers are perfect cubes, and what that means is, so let's take 27. If I take the cube root of 27, what that's asking me is what number multiplied times itself 3 times is equal to 27, and that's equal to 3. So these numbers, when you take the cube root of them, you come out with a whole number. So I mean, we look at another one. So if we look at the cube root of 64, so cube root, that would be equal to 4, because 4 times 4 times 4 equals 64. So these, when you're simplifying cubic um, radicals, so when you're simplifying radicals that are cubes, it's really nice to know these numbers and not have to think about them. So again, I would encourage you to just write these on the top of whatever scrap piece of paper you have. And if these were square roots, then you could do, so if there wasn't a 3 here, so if there's no number there, that's a square root. And if you wanted to find the list of perfect squares, you would just take the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, and square them. So raise them to the second power. And you could come up with a list of perfect squares. Okay? So first thing I like to do in this problem is I want to see if 18 is a perfect cube, and it is not. And I can't factor it. I can't break it into two numbers like 9 and 2. You like to look for two numbers you can break it into that one of those numbers might be a perfect cube. And I don't have that. So I could break it into 6 and 3, 9 and 2, 18 and 1, but none of those are perfect cubes. So that doesn't do me any good. And the same thing with a 6. I can't break that down into any perfect cubes. So what I want to do next is I want to combine these expressions together. And so I'm going to multiply these, and the number on the outside will just stay there. It'll be 5, but the numbers under the radical, the 18 and the 6, I'm going to multiply those together. And so what I'm going to end up with is 5 times the cube root of 18 times 6. So that would be 108. All right. And sorry, this is a cube root. Don't want to forget that. And so now I'm going to go back to what I was saying before, and I'm going to look the 108. Well, notice I need to have a 15 out here. That tells me that there is a perfect cube in here. This has a factor that's a perfect cube. So the way to find that, if you can't do it in your head, is just take this number and start dividing it by perfect cubes. Don't include 1, because that's not going to help you any. So if I take 108 and divide it by 8, it comes out as a decimal, so that's not going to work. If I take 108 and divide it by 27, it comes out as 4. So 27 times 4 is equivalent to 108. So what I'm going to do is break this up. So I have the 5. And then for the cube root, I'm going to break this up into 27 times 4. So again, I was trying to factor this, break it into two numbers, where one of them would be a perfect cube, and I found 27 is a perfect cube. So now I can go ahead and take the cube root of 27. So what number times itself 3 times is 27? That would be 3. 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. So the cube root of 27 is 3, so I can bring that out. So that comes out in front of the radical. So then I have the 5 times the 3 that I just brought out, and that's times the cube root of 4. And I can't do anything else with the 4. It doesn't have any factors that are perfect cubes. So the last piece is just multiply the 5 and 3 together. So I get 15 times the cube root of 4. And the question was asking us what's the value of x. And so x is what's under the radical. So in this case, that value would be 4. All right, so I hope that helped you out. Keep it up, and you will master the math.